This
Let me know.
conference will now be recorded.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Chris, are you here? I see your name, but can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I'm just staying muted so I don't cause any side noise.
Okay.
All right. Well, good morning, Chris. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing fine, thank you. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So today is obviously day one of virtual sales training for Comfort Advisors, and we're going to go over the two objectives. It's as simple as that. You have two main things you have to do on every call, and if you don't do these, your chance of making the sale diminish tremendously. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go through these. Just to let you know, when this was all being designed, I was closing about 40%. Okay, so I tried to go sell, and I was okay as a decent communicator. I went out and I was selling. About 40% of people decided to purchase from me. Okay, so that's not great, but it's not terrible. Well, about 60% did not purchase from me, and so I said, well, I want to study both of these groups of people. And so when I said study them, I wanted to figure out, why the 60 didn't buy, because if I could figure that out, obviously I could get better. If I could figure out more about the 40%, well, then I could get better. And that's how I came up with the two objectives. So let me go through. So when I studied the 40% that did buy, right? So I called everybody back. And let's just say if it was 100 people, I called them all back. 90% of them were happy, meaning that they were like, yeah, everything was good. It was okay. It was not anything special. Well, these happy people, the way I describe somebody happy is if you called, let's say you walk into somebody that you know in the mall and they're happy, well, they're going to say, they're not going to even tell you about it unless they're triggered. So if you said, you know what, I need a new heat and air unit, do you know somebody to call? Well, if somebody happy is going to say, well, yeah, go ahead and call the Comfort Authority. Okay? So they are happy, but they're not going to recommend you unless they're triggered. Okay? I said, well, I don't want to study those because, that's not going to help me out. And then 10% of these were cheerleaders, meaning that they told me that it was the best service they've ever received, the best experience they've ever had. And I said, well, maybe that's what I need to learn. So I studied these 10% of people. And in these 10% of people, I said, if I can figure out what I did with these 10% and duplicate it to the other 90%, well, obviously, it's going to change my world. Okay? But not only that, if I can duplicate this 10% over the 60 that didn't buy, maybe my closure rate or conversion rate will go up. So that's what we're going to focus on first, is what these 10% of people let me know. Okay? So let's go ahead and go through that. And we do, just to let y'all know, we do have a hard stop right on the hour because I have to start another one of these. All right, two objectives. So, and I know you've heard this story, Steve, but obviously I'm telling it to you again. So my wife could not see worth crap. Okay, she wanted to get LASIK surgery, and I said, all right, well, go get two estimates. And she said, really? So you want me to go get two estimates? I said, yeah. Because there's two ways to make money: bring in more, and another one is spend less. All right, so she comes back with these two estimates. One of them is Dr. Ming Wang. Okay, the other is Dr. Loaded. And now this process, I was actually hoping she'd go to get these estimates and she would just see that it was too hard to do, because you can't just walk in and get an estimate. You got to set an appointment, sometimes a week's out in advance. So it probably took a month, and she came back with these two estimates, right? Well, one of them was Dr. Ming Wang, one was Dr. Loaded. Now, Dr. Ming Wang, give or take, was $1,800. So it was $1,800 and change. I'm just putting $1,800 here for you. Well, Dr. Loden came back, and now she brings me these estimates. And Dr. Loden came back and was twice the amount, a little over $3,600. And so I'm going to ask you, Chris. You're now me. You're the husband. If you saw these two estimates, which one do you want to go with as the husband?
The $1,800 one.
1,800, yeah. So instantly she lays these down, and I said, cool, 1,800 it is. And she says, no, well, let me tell you why I like Dr. Loden. And I said, all right, this is going to be good. So what I did was I took this Dr. Loden estimate and I got a pen out and I said, I'm ready to go. I'm going to listen to you. And I logically want you to tell me why you're willing to go with Dr. Loden, right, instead of, or, Ming Wang. Why do you want to spend twice the amount that you can get it done? And she goes, okay, well, I'll tell you. I said, cool. So I'm sitting there. She says, well, first of all, this guy was nice. And I said, well, okay, that's good. He was nice, but that's not worth $1,800. Okay, so I'm not willing to pay twice the amount of money because you feel somebody's nice. And when I say that, did you hear the way I asked the question? I want you to tell me logically why Dr. Loden you want to use them. Nice is no logic. Nice is a feeling, right? I mean, she feels he's nice. That's her opinion. I said, no, it's not worth $1,800. Okay, so keep going. Tell me what you can tell me about why you want to use Dr. Loden. She said, okay, well, he took notes. I said, are you kidding me? I'm freaking taking notes right now, and you're not cutting me a check for $1,800. This doesn't even make sense. Who cares he took notes? I'm not worth it. I said, so tell me about the procedure. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, is one of them bladeless? Is one of them laced? Is one of them with a laser? Tell me about it. She goes, I don't know. I said, well, tell me about the warranties. Which one? I'm assuming he's got twice as long a warranty. She said, I don't think either one's got a warranty. And I said, so hold on a minute. You're willing to give a guy twice the amount for a product, and you don't even know if it has a warranty. And first of all, if it does, we don't even know if it's the same warranty as the other one. We don't even know anything about the procedure. And you're willing to pay twice the money. I said, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And she goes, well, all right, well, I'll tell you what, she's thinking, she goes, all right, well, how about this? He called Chase by his name. So I call my son by his name every day. I'm not getting a check cut for $1,800. This is idiotic. And she goes, well, okay, well, he gave Chase a sucker. Are you shitting me? The banks give you a sucker, right? I'm not paying $1,800 for a sucker. So she stops and she can't think of anything else. And at this point, I have 4 things written on a piece of paper by a woman who is intelligent, right? And she's willing to spend twice the amount of money. And this is all she can give me. And there's a reason behind it. So let me explain this real quick. So first of all, okay, Ming Wang, if you look at that, this would be like a rental property. The way I made the decision, the way you just showed me you made the decision. When it's not our own issues, when it's not our own emotions that's involved, we base our decisions on logic. Okay? So obviously, if it's a rental property, it's a business. We don't care if the energy bill goes high on the heat and air system. We don't care anything about it. What we do care about is how much is it going to cost us? When's it going to be done? How much there is going to be, well, how much, disruption is the tenant going to pay? But this is why I hate rental properties. In my companies, we don't run rental properties for this reason, because they base their decision on logic and no emotions. Or the emotion is all about money. Okay? The emotion is not about how does it affect me. Now, with your primary homeowner, homeowner primary residence, they base majority of their decisions are on emotion. They're not based on logic. They base them on how does this affect me? How does this make me feel? Right? And so when you look at this, my wife was willing to spend twice the amount of money for the same issue to get it taken care of, right? For the same simple thing. So if when you're selling heating and air systems, right, if you think that you're selling a box, right, and I say a box, if you think it has anything to do with that heating and air unit, you have not even tipped your toe in the water of sales. Because in this example, both of them is the same damn process, same exact process, 2 doctors, one's willing to charge twice the amount, He treated her better. There's things that he did, and she was obviously willing to pay for it. So when I poked her, Bear, I poked her, I finally said, look, tell me the real damn reason you're willing to pay twice the amount of money. This is silly. She goes, well, and she got upset because I was poking her. I wanted to know. And she goes, are you really want to know? She says, all right, well, let me tell you. So Dr. Loden, when I showed up for the appointment, I had to wait 1 hour in the waiting room past my appointment time. I said, real, you're really not helping your case here, right? Meaning that's you're telling me now you want to pay twice the amount of money and they were an hour late on their appointment. That doesn't freaking even make sense even more. She goes, hold on, I'll tell you why. So finally I go back into the back waiting room, which was a little small room, and it was freaking hot in there. I'm sweating. I said, okay, you're still not helping your point. Now you're in the second waiting room and it's hot. And I said, how long were you in there? She said, I was in there for almost an hour. I said, so you're willing to pay somebody twice the amount of money? They're an hour late for the appointment, right? You had to wait in another waiting room for an hour, and and the air didn't even work in there, and you're burning up. I said, again, you're not making sense. She said, well, hold on, I'm getting to the point. I said, all right, well, what's the point? She says, if y'all don't know this, well, Chase, my son, is a special needs kid. He was born with the middle part of his brain, the two pieces of his brain, the middle piece did not form, so therefore he has no long-term memory, right? He cannot transfer from short-term to long-term, and he'll live with it the rest of his life. So she said, so you really want to know what happened was Chase was all tore up and bothered in this waiting room. He's crying. He don't want to be there. He's freaking out. And as soon as the doctor comes in, he notices this. So he sits down on the floor with Chase. He calls him by his name. He was extremely nice to Chase. He gets Chase calmed down and brought back down to reality. Once he does that, he asks if he can go get Chase a sucker. He leaves. He then go gets him a sucker and he brings it back. He opens it up. He gives it to Chase. Once Chase is now back brought down to reality and he can focus on me, he then turns his undivided attention to me. She goes, Scotty asked me questions and he did it in a way he assumed I know the answer. So he didn't belittle me. He made me feel smart. Even though I didn't know the answers, the way he asked the questions made me feel that I knew the answer, even though I didn't. And then he asked permission to take notes. And then when he took notes, he did it in a way that it just made me feel 100% extremely comfortable with him. So if you really want to know the reason I want to spend twice the amount of money with this guy is because he listened to me more than 5 minutes. You listened to me in my entire life. As a matter of fact, I probably married the wrong man. I said, all right, now that makes sense. So when you look at it, if you think, again, it has anything to do with the heat and air system, what you're selling, you're totally incorrect. It's got nothing to do with it. So for me, when I figured this out and I spoke to these 10% of people that were cheerleaders and I figured this piece out, right? I had a simple saying, and I said it all the time to myself. They're paying for me and the unit's free. They're paying for me and the unit's free. So therefore, if you give an estimate, write a quote, and it's 10,000 and they tell you no, well, they're not telling you no to the system. They're telling you no, you're not worth 10,000. It made me look at things differently. Okay? So I want to ask you, oh, and I forgot to tell you, by the way, didn't tell you that Ming Wang invented LASIK surgery. So that if that doesn't even stick you in the side with a thorn, she's willing to pay the guy who'd been out of school for 3 years, who had communication training through a best practice, like a next star of the vision, industry, right? Taught him how to communicate, taught him how to do it correctly, take notes and do everything, versus the guy who invented it, who's an older doctor. She's willing to pay a guy twice the amount of money, than the guy who invented it. So Steve, how long have you been in business?
November will be 6 years.
All right, so how would it make you feel if I opened up a shop next door, you went in and quoted $10,000 and they told you no, I came in right after you and they gave me $20,000. And I've only been in business there for a week. How'd that make you feel?
Silly.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it happens every day. Here's the cool thing. You can learn to do it, and therefore you can be the other end of it, okay? All right. So the cool thing was, is when I asked her about Ming Wang, I said, well, why did you not want to go with Ming Wang? She said, Scotty came in the room and looked at me and goes, yep, you're a candidate. And he walked out. That was it. That was literally it. Yep, you're a candidate. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go further. We got a lot to cover here today. Steve, if you would, I don't have my phone. Keep me on track because I got 3 screens open and none of them's got a clock on it.
Okay,
So what time is it right now, sir?
9:17.
9:17. Cool. All right.
Chris was at our building. He's been in my office now for a little bit, so it looks like he dropped off the call, but he's sitting here with me.
All right, cool. Cool. So back to the 2 objectives. So let me ask you this, Chris, what do you think people pay for? If after knowing what I just went through, how would you answer that? What do you think they would pay for?
I mean, typically in my experience, it's the same as we look for. I mean, you're looking for the final experience and how you feel at the end of whatever the transaction is.
Okay, so you nut it on the head. They're paying for the experience. So I ran a call one Friday night, and I'll tell you, I didn't want to run the call. I'm no different than you. I got a call in the office that, hey, can you catch this call? And I'm not even a comfort advisor, but I was like, don't we have somebody that can catch it? And it was like 2 hours from my office. And they said, well, no. And by the way, I was going to go look at a new car. And they said, well, by the way, we know you're out there, so just catch it when you come back. And me being the owner of the business, I wanted to tell them no, but instead I just said, "Well, I don't have any paperwork. I don't." I just gave them an excuse because I'm no different than you. I'm a human. I want to give excuses to get out of crap. That's what we do. And but my office is very well trained. The sales lead coordinator says, "Scott, that's not a problem. We got an inventory manager out there. He'll bring you what you need." And I'm like, "Son of a bitch." I said, "All right." So I ran the call. So I show up again. I get there. It's probably 8 o'clock at night. And but if my number one objective, right, is to do a certain thing, well, then I got to really clear up my mind. And I mean, I've got to obviously figure this piece out. So I want to let you know that they pay for the experience. Now I'm not going to waste this whole time here and tell you about the whole call, but I will tell you this: I got there. And the lady was opened up right away. I mean, she was very nice. She talked to me. The guy wouldn't talk to me. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, let me ask you, can I get a glass of water? I said, I got a long way to go when I leave here. And is that okay? She said, yes. So she gets me a glass of water and I'm drinking it. I said, before we get started, can I go ahead and just take a break here? I said, I came a long way and I got a long way to go. She said, yeah, that's fine. So I sit down between them in this like lazy boy chair. And I said, well, while I'm taking a break here, I tell you what, why don't we just start off? Y'all tell me how you met. And she said, well, you're not going to believe this. I own the house across the street. I said, are you kidding me? You got the house across the street too? She goes, yeah. And he moved in, was a new neighbor. And I want to tell you, I first saw him, he's mowing the grass. I said, really? Mowing the grass? Was his shirt on or off? And she said, oh, it was off. And I looked at him. I said, you dog, you know what you were doing. And I couldn't even get him to talk to me. He just was watching TV. He wouldn't turn it off. And but I let her tell her story. And as she tells her story, I kept doing some things that just kept her feeling really good about her experience. And, so finally I said, all right, I've got her to where she now feels comfortable with going with our company and me, right? She's now, I've added to her experience, right? And so I said, so let me walk through the house. I said, I got to walk through the house and do some measurements. Do you want to measure or do you want to take notes? She said, I'll take notes. So the first room we walk into, just to tell you, it was a room where she collected thimbles. And they got all these thimbles. There's like thousands of them in this room. It was just a small, maybe a 10 by 10 bedroom, but it was converted into like a showpiece, like almost like a museum. So we walk in there and I'm like, whoa, I'm not walking in this room. This room looks expensive. And then she goes, oh, it is. I got a lot of money in it. And I said, amazingly, you can probably tell me where you got all these, right? And she said, I can. I said, tell me about this one. And tell me about it. So I'm getting her telling me about these thimbles. And all I'm trying to find is, because you got to realize since they're paying for the experience, right? I'm trying to find out to get him tied into it. Because right now she's having a great time. He's not. And I think you'll agree, if you can't get them both engaged in the call, the opportunity, of closing it, well, diminishes. And so I'm hoping maybe he bought her one of these thimbles. So I said, so tell me which one he got you. And she said, well, he didn't buy me any. I'm like, damn it, that didn't work. I said, well, did he happen to make these shelves? No, he can't make anything. I'm like, damn it, that didn't work. So I leave that room. I didn't accomplish anything, other than I took a measurement. But I'll tell you, we walked through every room. We got to the last room, and in this last room, as soon as we walked into it, there's this little wooden, it was a wooden case with a plexiglass shield or a front on it. And it had like a little league jacket, like a football jacket in there. And all I said was, whose is that? And she said, well, that's my husband. I said, are you kidding me? This is your husband? Oh my God, this is amazing. This little jacket. And you hear him come running down the hallway. And I didn't call him that there, but during my story, I call him 4 foot because he's about 4 foot tall. Well, 4 foot runs down the hallway and he runs in there. He's like, yeah, that's my jacket. First thing he said since he's been there. And I said, yeah, that's not your jacket. He goes, it is my jacket. And I said, are you kidding me? And I said, I bet you can still fit in that today. I can. And he takes this plexiglass off and he puts this jacket on. So when he puts it on, right, he puts it on, you can see this man is the happiest he's been, well, since I've been there. And I stopped and I said, I want to go ahead and address one thing. I said, I want to let you know that when I first got here, I didn't want to be here. I mean, I got a family I wanted to go home to. It's Friday night. And by this time I've already 45 minutes to an hour into the call. I said, I didn't want to be here. I said, didn't want to waste my evening, my Friday night. But I want to tell you, y'all brought me in here, and here it is. You've told me how you've met. You've treated me better than my own family treated me. You've now showed me, and I got to experience all those symbols. And now this. I said, I want to tell you, I did not want to be here, but now since y'all have done all this, you've treated me, again, better than my own family. You have truly added to my experience. You made my Friday night one of the best Friday nights I can remember. I said, and for that, I truly want to thank you. And at that point, I knew they had engaged in business with me, right? They'd made the decision to purchase at that point. He did. She already made hers earlier. And so at that point, all I did was I went through and I got the systems, wrote it up, and rest is history. So I'm telling you that story for a reason because you have a choice on every call as a company advisor, right? And I call it the Disneyland experience. So you have a choice. Do you want to take them to Disneyland? You can do that. People pay more to go to Disneyland. They pay more to wait in long lines at Disneyland, right? And so you have a choice. Do you want to take this consumer to Disneyland? And it is not. And when I say it's a choice, it is a truly direct choice. When you show up at the call, you can I could have easily said, yeah, looked at the unit, and I could have been in and out in 20 minutes and not made the sale. I spent 1 hour creating their experience, and that it had nothing to do with the heat and air system. Nothing. The minute that they had purchased mentally through me, the minute they had engaged in business, I then got down to business. Okay, so the choice is a choice with direct intent. Do we take them to Disneyland, or do you take them to the carnival down the street? Because I think you'll agree those are two different experiences. The same way my wife had two different experiences in the same industry. Okay, the people down the street, you can get in there cheap. They don't half of them don't have teeth. You go to Disneyland, you're going to see the people dressed up, and you're going to have a totally different experience. You have that choice, okay? And I'm going to tell you, you have to make the right choice. If not, well, you'll get the results of your choice. So my two objectives. Let's go back to what they are then. And so the first objective, right, is to make the customer's time with you more valuable than anywhere else in the world. Let me repeat that. Make the customer's time with you more valuable than anywhere else in the world. And I think you'll agree on that call, well, I achieved that. Okay. Now, just to let you know, I didn't also finish when I'm done with the call. I'm totally done. I'm walking out. It's Friday night, and as I'm walking out, she said, "Hey, Scott, you got a minute?" Because when I first got there, I didn't tell you this portion either. When I first got there, she goes, "We got 2 estimates. Would you like to see them?" I said, no, I don't need to see those. They have no bearing on what I'm going to do here today. Okay. So she said, okay. Well, when I'm leaving, she said, hey, Scott. And I turned around, and again, I'm no different than you. I don't want to be there on a Friday night. I'm thinking, what the hell do you want? But as I turn around, I said, yes, because it's about her time. It's about her experience. I turned, I said, yes. She said, hey, you might want these. She gives me the 2 estimates. I don't even look at them. I put them in my bag. So I'm now turned around. I'm about to leave again. She said, hey, Scott. I turned back around. Yes. She said, hey, just to let you know, I'm 72 years old. And I wanted you to know this is by far the best conversation I've ever had in my life. Okay. And so I think you'll agree she was taken to Disneyland. Now, when I got home, I did look at the 2 estimates. One was 6,500 and one was 3,500. And they were both of them had a unit, a UV light, and an electronic air cleaner. Because she did tell me as soon as I got the system, picked out, she said, all right, well, I want a UV light and air cleaner. Great. So let you know, mine was 10,500. So why would she, right, pay $10,500 in 1999 or 2000 for a unit and air cleaners, right? It was what was it, 10 SEER, heat pump and the air cleaner and a UV light when she could have got it for 3,500 or she could have got it for 65. Well, because it was about the experience. Okay. All right. So if we look at here, one last piece of that. If I got time, I'll just tell you real quick. So when the installers showed up, they installed the unit on Saturday. They showed up on Monday to do the air cleaners because we didn't have that size in stock. I went to the flea market that weekend and I bought the ugliest damn thimble I could find. I wrote a thank you card, and in the card I put a silver quarter in there, a 1964 silver quarter, and I gift wrapped them all. So when the installer showed up Monday, they said, Scott, not Scott, whatever her name was, Mary. Hey, Mary, Scott says that we can't install the air cleaner till you open this. So she opened it right in front of them. So I tell a story on every call. Well, I tell a lot of stories, but one of the stories I tell is about where I collect silver quarters. Okay. So in this card, again, I said the card, all it said was, hey, again, appreciate it. I let you know I really didn't care to be there on a Friday night, but at this point, y'all truly, treated me better than family. You added to my experience, and I want to let you know I sincerely thank you. So please accept these gifts from me. One was an ugly ass thimble, and one was a silver quarter. And then I put in there, and I'm giving you the silver quarter because you've taken the jacket, right, the coat or whatever it was, out of that and putting it on really made my night. Again, so for that, I want you to have a part of me. Here's my silver quarter. So how hard, Chris, do you think it was to get to actually get referrals?
Pretty easy if they have that kind of experience. They're going to tell everybody.
Yeah, so referrals, and so obviously they just came. So Steve, what time we got? By the
9:30.
way, 9:30. Cool. All right, I'm gonna speed up a little bit. All right, so number one objective: make your time with you more valuable anywhere else in the world, and you do that by truly listening, by active listening. Well, what is active listening, right? So let's look at that. So active listening is when you open up with, give you 2 examples here. So when she would say something, let's say, and it ain't just her, if they say something like, well, yeah, Scott, I was getting some estimates because this one's getting older and causing some problems. You would just say, so if I understand you correctly, you decided to get some estimates because this one's starting to cause you some problems. And so what you do is you open up with, so I understand, or you open up with what you're telling me is, or you open up with based on the knowledge you're giving me, something like that. Then you repeat best what they said word for word. And then after you repeat it, you end it with some kind of grabber that locks in their mind that you were listening. So I would say, so if I understand you correctly, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm just saying, so did I hear you correctly? Or is that what you're saying? Or did I understand you? So that's a form of active listening. It's not just listening, it's truly listening, opening up with a sentence, right? And then obviously repeating it and then closing it with the sentence. Okay? So that's a form of active listening. Well, the next thing you need to do is obviously you need to ask permission to take notes. You should never write anything down without permission. Because as she's talking, your next customer's talking, she might say, hey, you need to hurry and get out of here because I got to go take my 8-year-old daughter to play soccer. And if you start taking notes, right, and you don't ask permission, she now has doubt. Right? What is he taking notes? Why is he taking notes? And in sales, the word why is a big negative snowball. It creates this problem. So your consumer can never ask why. That's why you ask permission. For me, if it's an older customer, I do it just like this. I say, you know what? I tend to forget things pretty easily. As a matter of fact, my mother got remarried. Her name is now Carol Burnett. I'd forget that if it wasn't funny. So is it okay if I take some notes? And I say, yeah. If it's somebody younger, I just say, look, I tend to forget things pretty easy. So with your permission, can I make a few notes so I make sure I, don't forget anything? Sure. Okay. So I'm asking permission and telling you why in the same sense. Therefore, it knocks out the reason they can think why. Next, I say out loud what I write down. This is very important, and a lot of people think this is uncomfortable. If you were to watch me do this, you would think it's weird. When you're doing it to a consumer, it works perfectly because here's what happens. She was talking about her 8-year-old daughter playing soccer. You asked permission to take notes. And if you're taking notes and she doesn't know exactly what you're writing down, again, well, then that creates doubt. Doubt creates uncertainty. Uncertainty, well, creates confusion. Confusion, they do nothing. Okay? So think of it like this. If I'm writing it down, it would look like this. I'd say, so what you're telling me, Steve, is that you said the systems are getting a little older and you're trying to be proactive, so that's why you're getting estimates now. So did I hear you correctly? Yep, sure did. Okay, cool. So Steve, is it okay if I make a few notes? I tend to forget things pretty easy. As a matter of fact, I forget my own mother's name if she didn't get remarried and it was Carol Burnett. Is that okay? And then you would probably say, oh, is it really Carol Burnett? I said, well, yeah, it is. And believe it or not, I show it to you on my phone just to validate that it's Carol Burnett. And at that point, you say, yeah, I can take notes. And then as I write down, I'm going to write the notes, right? And I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to say, all right, Steve decided to get estimates because things starting to give him problems and he don't want to have to go through it, blah, 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 blah. Now, if I did that to you, right, Chris, would you have any doubt in your mind that I truly listened?
Nope.
And by doing that, that's going to make you as a person go, holy crap. Again, like my wife said, this guy listened to me more than 5 minutes. My husband's listened to my entire life. Okay. All right. So obviously, part of active listening is throwing fuel in the fire. Let me give you a few examples of this. So when somebody's talking about something they care about, you want to add to their experience. You want them to talk more about it. Well, how do you get to talk more about it? Well, you gotta visualize. You got these buckets of gasoline. By her talking about something she cares about, it makes herself feel good. Well, when the fire starts to dwindle, you just throw a bucket of gasoline back on the fire. And so here's a few examples of buckets of gasoline. As she's telling a story, you can just go, are you kidding me? And guess what? She'll be like, no, I'm not kidding you. I'm going to tell you more about it now. That's what happens. And it starts to dwindle down. You can just go, no way. And you notice my voice changes when I say these things. And so look at here. Here's a few examples of them. Amazing. Amazing is what's called a filter word. The person that you say it to takes it every person you say it to takes it differently. When you just say the word amazing, they take it personally by what they got going on in their life. I used to teach a class called Filter, just to tell you real quick, that there were 40 people in the class. And one guy asked me the stupidest question I've ever heard in my life. Don't remember what it was. And all I said was amazing. I'll get back to that in a moment. At the end of the class, I said, there was a test. I'm going to give you one extra credit question. And I said, all right, so I'm going to ask everybody here, what did I mean when I said, whatever Timmy asked me that question, what did I ever mean when I said amazing? 39 people in the class said it was amazing that Scott thought Scott thought it was amazing that he asked some stupid question, some variation of that. The one guy that asked the question said it was amazing how Scott thought I asked such a great question. That's what filters do. Okay, so these are fuel in the fire. Here's another example where you can be more direct. Like in this lady here, if she's telling her story, it works really good to be direct and just say, what'd you do then? Right? And she's going to tell you more about it. And then while she's telling you, you can say, are you kidding me? My gosh, amazing. No way. You kidding me? You can keep saying these once you're more direct. And give you another one being more direct, you can sit there and go, well, how did that make you feel? And so give an example. If she's got a kid that scored a goal, you can say, are you kidding me? She scored a goal, her first goal? Awesome. Yes, she did. I was so proud. Really, how did it make you feel? Oh, my God, I was the happiest mother in the world. None of this has anything to do with the heat and air unit, right? This is where the cell is made. And so, how many times I've said this when they're telling a story? where I'm more direct, I'll say, well, what'd you do then? And then they tell me, I start laughing. And I'll go, are you kidding me? Your life is just like a sitcom. It makes them feel good and they keep going. Okay, so we got to keep plugging along so we ain't got much time left. All right, so again, we have to truly listen, right? And the second part of, so again, objective number one, make a time more valuable to you in the rest of the world. Part of that is truly listening. The second part is they need to learn something to a non-condescending way. So they need to learn to a non-condescending way. So you need to start your sentences, right? When you're talking to them, you got to start your sentences with, as you know. And I say that you don't walk up and say, let me educate you on something. And if you don't do this correctly, because when people learn, right, they feel good. Well, when they feel good, they want to keep learning. But if they learn the wrong way, they like, this guy's an ass. So you got to start sentences with, you're assuming they already know the answer. So you can just say, I know you're already aware of this, and you just say what you're going to say. I've never had a consumer raise their hand and go, Scott, you know what? You keep treating me smarter than I am. You keep saying I already know these things and I don't. They're not going to do that. But by you starting your sentences this way, they're going to feel good because they're still going to learn, but they're going to do it in a way that's non-condescending because you're not talking down to them. And a lot of education can be taken that way. Okay? So, all right. Again, when people learn something, their self-value goes up, right? And they feel good. When they feel good, they want to be around the person that makes them feel good. All right? And it just happens to be you. So let me ask you a question. Chris, have you learned anything so far on this call today?
Probably the biggest thing so far is just what you just went over a minute ago about, like, changing how you say those comments, like changing the tone of how you're actually saying them and replying to them.
Okay. So if you've learned something today, right, and if you use it in the field, your self-value goes up. And if your self-value goes up, you're going to feel good. And you want more of this, right? More and more and more. So that's the same way as it works on the call. Because, quite frankly, if you don't have a good experience today, you're not going to feel like this was worth your time. So, all right, so if you look, let's go. This is totally objective one. We're done with objective one. Make the time more valuable with you than anywhere else in the world, and you do that through truly listening, using active listening, or you do it by teaching them through a non-condescending way. How are we on time, Steve?
9:40.
9:40. Thanks, sir. All right, objective number two. What is it? Well, I'll tell you what it is. We'll just get started and show you. So objective number two, I had to focus on the 60% of people that did not buy from me. So one was, remember, if we could get all our people to be cheerleaders, the majority of them, I was focusing on the 40% that bought, and then I narrowed it down to the 10% of cheerleaders, and that created objective one. Well, objective number two, I needed to focus on why people didn't buy. So I called all these people back that didn't buy from me, and here's what I did. I'd call them up and say, hey, and now I say I didn't call these up. I wrote the script, but somebody else called them up because they're not going to tell me the truth because I was the salesperson out there, but they'll tell somebody else the truth. So the script was simple as this. You call them up and say, hey, Steve, this is Scott with XYZ. Hey, I know we had one of our guys out there, and I wanted to do a few common courtesy questions to see how the visit went. Is that okay? Sure, cool. I'm sorry, they didn't say my name. It's very important they didn't say my name. They said, we're one of our guys out there, is it can do some common courtesy question, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all right, cool. So do you happen to remember the guy's name and how did he treat you? And at this point, if they said, well, he was, and I don't remember his name, if they said, yeah, he was awesome, well, we knew at this point that I did a good job of selling myself, right? Then they said, all right, well, let me ask you this. How did everybody else treat you from the company, from the dispatcher, the call taker, to myself? Right? They asked that question. And some people said, well, Scott was not good. Some people said the company, we've had issues in the past. And these came, so I might have lost the sale and didn't know why, but we called back every one of these. So we had to go over, well, was it the solution? Was it the price? Was it time? And so the script did that. Now, We're only going to focus on one number here, but the number we're going to focus on for the comfort advisors was that when of all these calls, these 60% of people that did not buy for one reason. 40% of them, right, didn't buy because of the solution. They felt what I offered them was not the best thing for them. Could have been the brand, could have been, there's something called power of the masses or power of consensus, right? Meaning that if in the event, if two people came out before me and said they need a 3-ton, and I said they need a 4 and I need a low cap, I'm probably going to lose that sale because two people are smarter than one. Doesn't mean, even though if I'm right, I'm probably going to lose it. Now, so I determined, well, if 40% of people don't buy because they don't feel I've offered the right solution, then I need to figure out how to get the consumer to come up with their own solution, right? And that's where the whole second objective came from. Again, I wanted to get these 40% of people that did not, so 40% of these 60. So if you look at it on 100 calls, there's 60 people that did not buy. Of those 60, 24 of them. So if I could knock this out, I could raise my conversion rate 24% if 100% of them agreed. Or they're now going to have other objections, which are okay. Okay. So the two objectives. Objective number 2, get the consumer to come up with their own solution. Because you've heard, you probably heard me say it. People follow their own ideas no matter how dumb they are. And I always say it's just like that guy on 4th of July, one of those hold your beer moments. You're about to see him do something really, really, really stupid. And yet he thinks it's a great idea. It's because it's his idea, right? And so when the consumer can come up with their own solution, well, and it's the right one or it lines up with your solution, well, it can knock out that 40%. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they already have a solution. It just might not be what lines up with you. And this is where you're supposed to, figure that out. Meaning it could be this. How many times have you ran a call and they go, hey, my husband just says we just need, bigger unit. And in reality, they might have a big enough unit. Or you run a call and they go, you know what, let's say they got a bonus room. And they go, well, we determined we just need to add 2 extra vents in there. And you might see they don't have a return in there. And maybe that's the problem. So if you just offer a return and you don't get them to come up with the solution that they need a return, you're not going to knock out that 40%, which in this example is 24 calls. If you master this one little objective, you could pick up 24 calls or, 24%. If you look at it on 100, your closure rate or conversion rate can go up 24%. Okay, so you have to, how many?
15.
15, cool. So you have to be a master of coming up with, right, getting them to come up with their own solution. And if you are a master of that, guess what? That objective now goes away. So how do you do that? Well, here's how I came up with it. Obviously, you got to have a great customer survey. And this customer survey, again, is designed for your products, but it's also your menu. So if we look at that survey, and so Steve, as the sales manager / owner, when you're debriefing these calls, you got to look at that survey on every call they didn't close. So when you ask them, do they have it filled out? Yeah, I have it. And if he says, yeah, well, let me see it. And then when you look at it, do they have the stars as we talked about? Do they have the things identified that's going to be able to give the customer their solution, their diagnosis to their own solution? And if not, you got to start there. Like one of the best guys I've ever seen fill out the survey, it was just truly amazing. He got it, I would say on probably 95% of his calls, he got the consumer to pick the additional work they needed, right? And whether it was air scrubbers or whatever it was, he was just so awesome at it. And then again, that point is, so let's just say, Steve, if your son or daughter had allergies, at that point, right, I'm going to say, well, I'm gonna get you to rate them on a scale 1 to 10. I'm personally gonna set the stage as severe, so therefore they have a comparison. And then when you say, well, my son has allergies and he's got to take shots or inhalers or something, well, now that you know, I'm gonna be able to throw fuel on those fires. I'm like, are you kidding me? Your kid has to take shots? That's nuts. How old is he? And I'll never forget. I ran a call. I showed up, and the lady, there was a two-month old system. You ready for this? I didn't know it because nobody would run a 2-month old system. I got out there and it was 2-month old, and I'm looking through it. I'm doing my survey, and she said, "All right, well, the issue is I told the lady on the phone that it was like 15 years old because I couldn't get anybody to come out here and quote me a system." And I said, "Well, that's all right. Well, how old is it?" She says it's 2 months old. I said, "Really?" So we have some major issues then going on. If you're looking at replacing, or you're trying to just determine if they took advantage of you or something, or you got major issues. And I said, so let's go through. And now her son, right, had allergies. And once I determined they were a 10, I said, are you kidding me? He has to take shots. Bless his heart. How old is he? And she said, 12 years old. I said, I cannot imagine being 12-year-old and have to take shots for something. I said, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a little extra time while I'm here because in the event, if I can find out what's caused them and make them, go away, that'd be better, right? And she said, yeah. And so I go into this room upstairs, and I'm going to tell you, it was hot. As soon as I walked in, it was burning up. It was hotter than the other rooms. I stepped to the foyer, and I'm like, dang, it's hot. I stepped back out. I said, so let me ask you this. Please don't tell me that this is your son's room. And she goes, yeah, why? I said, oh, that's not good. She said, why? I said, because not only he's got allergies, this room's hotter. And at night, when you have allergies, the last thing you want to be doing is sleeping in a hot room with allergies and drainage. Because if you don't sleep well at night, you don't perform well the next day at what you're doing. And so, for example, with me, I got to perform well when I see you because, I got to know what I'm doing to help you through the process. I said, so what does he do during the day? She goes, well, he goes to school. And I said, so if he's up at night, hot, drainage, I said, so how is he doing in school? The lady starts to cry and goes, believe it or not, he's failing. And now I didn't say he was failing because of what happened, but she goes, oh my God, he's failing school. What is it going to take? So obviously at this point, we took out a 2-month-old because it was the wrong size, put a zone system in, and then she's turned around and tried to sue the other company. Right? But that's what a good survey will do is get her to diagnose it. I didn't have to diagnose anything. Okay? All right. So now so the key to getting them to come up with their own solution is to do a good survey and obviously to keep the same non-condescending education going. Because if they're learning and they're feeling good about it, they will come up with their own diagnosis and therefore they can come up with their own solution. So let's look at the 2 objectives. Make their time more valuable with you anywhere else in the world, and we do that through truly listening, active listening. They learn something through a non-condescending way, which adds to their experience. Okay. And objective number 2, get the consumer to come up with their own solution. And the 2 key focuses there is a good customer survey, and again, teaching through a non-condescending way. So, Steve, how are we on time, and what questions do we have at this point?
10 minutes. And I've got some questions. What questions do you have? Chris doesn't have any. He's shaking his head no over there.
Okay.
So this is not necessarily exactly to the material you covered, but it raised a question. You mentioned they ended up getting a zone system. That's not in the 5-star elite, 5-star 432 packages.
That's correct.
How do you sell, if you ended up needing to do a zone system for whatever reason, that's not something that's in that. How do you add that to that?
Well, in that example, what I did was told her that obviously that's not something that every house needs. So that will be priced up separately, right? And so in the event, if we don't even need a new unit, like before we do the low calc, right? If we don't need a new unit, she got to have a minimum zone system and an air scrubber or something for the allergies. Okay. But once we do the low calc, if she needs a new system, well, I've got a price book that's got the systems and the air scrubbers and all that. And I'll have to show her that the zone package will be actually, priced separately. But she definitely. you know. So I mean, but in that example, again, she came up with her own solution.
Yep.
So there was nothing to sell at that point, and there's no price point you'll ever put, right, or you should ever put on your kids' allergies, your kids. So at this point, it had nothing to do with the unit. It had only thing to do with her experience and her son's future.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay. It was mainly about the present.
Yep, how to price it. Okay. So, and I know this was similar to obviously the tech one that you already sent through. They are similar, and it didn't matter if I was a tech or I was a comfort advisor. My two objectives were the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I also liked the learning something in a non-condescending way, having that, making sure that happens.
Yeah, and as you notice, all that ties in with calling them smart 5 times a call, all that stuff, right? That we've already gone through, which we normally don't go through until we've gone through this first.
Help them 5 times, smart 5 times, and
save them money 5 times.
Save them money 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess. Go ahead.
So off of this immediate day one, this is more kind of along what we've already been talking about. Rooftop unit, for example, we're going to need to have a crane and a curb adapter, and that's like $1,500 extra.
Yeah.
Hell, our cost on a crane now is like $1,200.
Yeah.
So, we've got the price book, the margin control price book. What do we do when we need a $1,200 crane and we're presenting the price?
So I've tried 2 ways. I'm gonna tell you the most successful. Okay. So I realized years ago. How much time we got?
We got 6 minutes.
Okay. So I realized, well, let's do 4 minutes because I got to get ready for my next one. So I realized years ago that when you break prices down, it creates questions. To give an example, let's say if your favorite place to eat is Logan's or something, steakhouse, and if that meal was $30, you're okay with $30, okay? But the minute that they told you, hey, Steve, the steak is 18, the green beans are 4, the asparagus or whatever is 5, and the mashed potatoes is 5, you're gonna say, well, shit, don't give me those asparagus, and it starts to create problems. So I tried it both ways, and I'd price the curb adapter and the crane separately. And then what that caused me was consumers going, all right, it now starting to pick it apart because they can say, well, are you kidding me? That crane cost that, right? Are you kidding me? That little metal piece is that? And so that didn't work so well. Okay. So then the other 2 ways I did it was the next way, I said, all right, let's just say that those cost me, I don't know, $3,000 extra. Well, what I did was, and I knew that going into it, I just used a price page that was $3,000 more.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
and
so
if
you're already at your max price page, for example.
If I'm already at my max.
Yeah.
Well, I'm never going to be at my max unless it's a 5-ton system.
Yeah.
So if it's a 3-ton, now if it's a 5-ton, yeah, you got issues. But if it's a 3-ton, right, I'm just going to go up to a 4-ton or a 5-ton book, whatever is $3,000 more per system. And then, so I did it that way, and that way had great success. And then the most successful way, and I'm not telling you to do this because this is up to you. I had a guy try this out. Was we would go up $3,000 in the price book, and then we'd also price them separately. And when they whined about them, we'd say, well, what if I can get those thrown in at no additional charge? And therefore, it was already built in the price. And that way it was the most successful. But I'm not telling you to do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to get off here. Thank you very much. And then I will talk to y'all on tomorrow's call as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, take care. See you, Chris. Bye.
Thank you.